Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Biodesix channel, lung cancer diagnostic testing and biopharma services. Joining us to give us a high-level overview of the investor deck today for some real clerical view. We've got Scott, the CEO, joining us as always. Welcome back, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. So I'll pass it off to you to kind of take us through this.
Yeah, sounds good. If you're not familiar with Biodesix, we're a commercial stage blood-based lung diagnostics company addressing an exceptionally large unmet need and opportunity. It's a distinct privilege to represent the extremely talented and capable and accomplished Biodesix team. As you mentioned, I'm Scott Hutton, the CEO, and it's both an honor and a privilege to be with you today. So at Biodesix, as I mentioned, commercial stage, when you ask why, really huge opportunity in a large addressable market with 5 million patients eligible for testing on an annual basis, limited to no competition. And we were really proud to exit 2023 with 48 sales team members in the United States, focusing on calling on pulmonologists. And then at the end of Q3 last year, we shared it was our fifth straight quarter of greater than 60% growth for our lung diagnostic testing volumes. We've got exceptionally strong and industry-leading gross margins at 76%. And we began sharing adjusted EBITDA last year, really with the mindset of showing everybody where we are on that path to profitability. And you can see here we've made tremendous progress over the last 12 months. And we're really excited to share and demonstrate that 40% improvement over the prior quarter. We've got 3 pipeline tests for the same patient population that our sales reps will sell in development that we'll plan on offering and introducing in the coming years. And then in the middle of 2023, we waited a long period of time to present our prospective Oracle study data. What you can see here is we demonstrated a 74% reduction in unnecessary, costly, invasive procedures when utilizing the Notify XL2 test. So you may ask yourself, why lung? Unfortunately, lung cancer remains the deadliest of all cancers. More people in the United States will die from lung cancer this year than prostate, breast, and colorectal cancer combined. 1 in 16 people in the United States will be diagnosed with lung cancer in their lifetime. And as you can see, a late stage or metastatic cancer diagnosis has a 5-year survival rate of 6%. So we looked at this and said there's a big opportunity to make a positive impact and make a difference. We've got 5 on-market tests, all with Medicare coverage and all with private payer coverage. We focus pre-cancer diagnosis with our nodule risk assessment testing called Notify Lung. And then post-cancer diagnosis, we've got 3 tests that we call the IQ Lung Treatment Guidance Testing. We'll go into greater detail into each of these tests. So as a data-driven diagnostic company, we really focused on assessing not only physician behavior, but also physician performance to identify areas where we might positively impact them. So when you looked at the literature historically, 62% of patients receiving a biopsy had a biopsy conducted on a benign nodule. And even more concerning was that 35% of patients that had a surgical resection had so done on a benign nodule, fitting squarely in that unnecessary, costly, invasive procedure category. And then on the opposite extreme, nearly 1 in 5 patients sent to CT surveillance actually had a malignancy. There, we're really relying on those patients being compliant to their surveillance program and returning. And then we also hope that the aggressive state or that the cancer hasn't become aggressive and metastasized quickly. So when we look at the care continuum and what physicians are trying to do when they first assess a patient, really they look at the guidelines and state the goal is to identify the risk of malignancy in these early patients presenting with a lung nodule. It's really easy when you think of high risk and the very low risk categories, ultimately stating that this patient has a high risk of cancer of greater than 65%. So now let's intervene. Let's do a biopsy or surgery. In the very low risk, where it's less than 5% risk of malignancy, they can confidently identify those patients, send them to a CT surveillance program, and take a wait and watch approach. Unfortunately, those 2 categories only account for 20% of the patients that present. So the remaining 80% reside in this low to moderate risk category, ranging between 5 and 65% risk of malignancy. This is where physicians really struggle answering the question of what do I do next? How do I treat these patients? And most importantly, how do I identify those patients who I should intervene on? So we introduced our Notify test here. We've got Notify CDT and Notify XL2, two tests that are ordered and run in concert. Notify CDT is a traditional rule-in test. Here we're identifying those patients with a likely malignant lung nodule. So simple blood draw sent into our lab within 24 hours, we'll return test results to that physician so he or she may identify that patient that they can intervene on, ultimately stating that a likely malignant result moves those patients into that high risk category. If that does not come back as likely malignant, then we'll run the Notify XL2 test. This is your rule out test. So here we're identifying those patients that can accurately be moved down or have their risk reassigned to a very low risk and then be prescribed a CT surveillance program. So once a patient has that Notify CDT likely malignant result that leads to a cancer diagnosis, we transition into our IQ lung treatment guidance testing portfolio. And you may ask why and what's the value here? As I said, lung cancer remains the deadliest of all cancers, and approximately 235,000 patients will be diagnosed with lung cancer this year. When you look at the overall survival, we've talked about how dire that is, but the median overall survival with an advanced stage non-small cell lung cancer diagnosis is 10.5 months. Traditional testing times have taken up to 26 days. So when you look at this, time matters. For a patient that might have 10.5 months left to live, waiting 26 days or nearly 1 month of that just for test results is too long. So at Biodesix, we pride ourselves on having the most rapid turnaround time for all of our tests. So within 36 to 72 hours, you'll have patients' test results in hand. The reason this is so important is there's over 60 treatment and combination treatments recommended in the guidelines. So physicians really are struggling with what's the appropriate treatment for the patient that I'm treating in that moment. I've mentioned that this consists of 3 tests. We have 2 genomic tests, the GeneStrat ddPCR test and the GeneStrat NGS test. We've segmented this. We're the only company to offer a targeted ddPCR panel, and we're targeting those known tumor mutations and genes associated with lung cancer with a rapid turnaround time. And then a broad portfolio of 52 genes for those patients that maybe have failed initial treatment, have a recurrence, and or have failed treatment, meaning that this will give us an opportunity to get them into a clinical trial. And then we complement that with our VeriStrat proteomic test. And here we're measuring an immune status for that patient. So we believe we're the only company to really look at this holistically, where we're providing information for the healthcare professional that says, with the genomic GeneStrat test results, you know what's going on with the patient's tumor or cancer. And then with the VeriStrat proteomic test results, you know how that patient's immune system is responding and battling that cancer. I mentioned a robust portfolio of products in our pipeline. We currently have 3 tests that we have either discovered and validated or are currently developing. And we'll start in that treatment category. Our first test is called Risk of Recurrence. This is a proteomic test. It's blood-based. Pre-surgical resection via blood draw, we're helping physicians identify those patients that are likely to recur. The reason this is valuable is early stage lung cancer diagnosis, the guidelines state, proceed to a resection. Unfortunately, 20 to 40% of those patients are going to recur within 2 years. So the challenge is, how do we identify those patients before the surgical resection so that we can begin to treat them a little bit differently? We also have a primary immune response test. Here we're identifying those patients that can respond favorably to an immunotherapy. The first immunotherapy for lung cancer was introduced about 7 to 8 years ago, and it's made a significant impact. But the best performance you can find in the literature states that 1 in 3 patients will respond favorably or positively to an immunotherapy regimen. So here, what we're trying to do is identify those patients early, get them on the right treatment as quick as possible, and those that won't respond, let's move on to a different treatment. Again, time matters. And then lastly, we have our minimal residual disease test or MRD test. We've partnered with Memorial Sloan Kettering and Biorad to develop a test that's post-surgical resection where we'll identify those patients that have minimal residual disease and or are going to recur. As I stated earlier, we plan on introducing these tests somewhere in the 25 to 26 range. So in summary, again, Biodesix is a blood-based lung diagnostic company. We have a first mover status, no known competition, and an exceptionally large addressable market. I've stated our rapid turnaround times, and those are industry leading, and we'll continue to honor that, especially because of lung cancer being as deadly as it is. We know time matters, not only to those physicians treating them, but those patients and their family members. The 5 reimbursed tests, all with Medicare coverage and private payer coverage, is also an industry leading standard. We're the only company focused on lung with 5 different tests. And then the 5 straight quarters of greater than 60% growth really demonstrate that we are a commercial engine focused on execution, and we'll continue to invest in that channel and hire additional sales reps as we progress through 2024 in an effort to continue to maintain that growth rate, but more importantly, impact more patients positively than ever before. And those strong industry-leading gross margins at greater than 75%, we'll continue to strive to improve those and keep them in the mid to upper 70s. We highlighted our path to profitability. We look forward to disclosing more as we make progress through 2024, but we're really excited about the performance, and we look forward to sharing that because we believe that we can get there pretty quickly. And as I've stated, it's an honor and privilege to be with you today because I get the honor and really privilege to represent the Biodesix team, which is first in class and really unrivaled.
On that note, I'll pass it off to the viewers. We'd love to know what you think and consider subscribing for news and catalysts when it comes into play. Of course, we'll bring it to you here. But on that note, as always, we look forward to catching you in the next one.